Sergeant Robert Daniel Vance Jr., United States Marine Corps, Vietnam. I interviewed Robert in Abingdon, Virginia. It was September 7th, 2008. I was on a 10-day tour back east, and that was one of my stopovers in Abingdon. Interviewed him and a lot of other people. And I just really have fond memories of all these stories, folks. And I'm just so grateful that we can share his story today. To me, he's a hero. Sergeant Vance, he served with Company E, 2nd Battalion, 26th Marines, 3rd Marine Division. In May of 1967, he was in Vietnam in 67, actually joined the military in the early 60s, went to Parris Island for boot camp in 1963. Vietnam came along and he found himself in Vietnam. 1967, May 17th and 18th for his actions in Vietnam as a sergeant. Squad leader, lost a lot of men in combat, hand-to-hand fighting at times, something you don't hear a lot about in Vietnam. And you can see it in his eyes when you watch this story. But he received a Bronze Star for his gallantry, for his actions in Vietnam, was wounded during the fighting on May 18th and continued on. And just amazing, just one of those great stories as you hear it, and knowing that he was traumatized by war, but what a great leader, what a great man. And I'm just so happy. I thank God for Sergeant Vance and his story. Just epitomizes a warrior in the Vietnam War. And just so grateful to share it with you today. So anyways, let's honor him, folks, and let him know that we care and that we are out there, and just reach out to him if you want to. That would be fine. So, okay, folks, lots going on in this world right now, and I'm just so great. Voices of History is going strong here on YouTube. And the radio station is going 24 hours a day. And I want to thank all of those who have helped support my work the last couple of years. That's the only reason I'm able to do this. And going forward in 2025, I'm going to need some help. So if you want to help me get more of these stories out there, I know a lot of you are blessed by them. I would greatly appreciate any help you could afford us in this work. So God bless you. Thank you for watching, listening, sharing these stories, subscribing to this channel as we get near 100,000 subscribers now, thank God. And I'm just grateful I can serve my God and my country through the lens of my camera. So, amen. Okay, let's leave it at that. Let's honor Sergeant Vance right now. I think you're going to really enjoy his story. It's been sitting in my archives for almost 20 years. He will be featured in my 2nd Vietnam film when that gets done next year. So I think you'll like it. God bless you. Now, sir?
I am 62, will be 63 on November the 5th.
Basic training was where?
I went through Parris Island in July 1963 in South Carolina.
63?
Yes, sir.
Vietnam hadn't even really got going too much.
No, sir. Cuba was the issue at that time.
So at what point in your, as a Marine, did you hear about Vietnam, and then tell me about actually going to Vietnam?
When I came back after I was sent to Cuba, when I was in the 6th Marines at Camp Lejeune, they sent me to Cuba. And then when I came out of Cuba, they sent me to Fort Meade, NSA, because we were security for NSA and still are security. And then the Vietnam War was getting heavy and they needed some bodies. The casualties were so great, so they asked for 20 volunteers out of the NSA group of Marines, and I volunteered. I really didn't know exactly what to expect, but when I got to Vietnam, I realized it was a different experience than I had imagined. And
you were just how old when you went to Vietnam?
Just a little over, pushing 19.
Mm-hmm. Pretty young.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What was your MOS? What was your job?
My MOS was 0311, which is infantry or grunts, as we call it in the Marine Corps. Of course, when I was in security, it was, I believe, 0321, but it went back to 0311, and when we went to Vietnam, had a lot of very green troopers or Marines that just came out of San Diego, and I had a little experience out of Cuba, so I was made right guide of the platoon, and which consists of approximately 65 people. And then I volunteered. I went to Vietnam from Okinawa, flew while the rest of them floated over, and I volunteered to become a squad leader, which is a step down. And I took 13 men, and we did fairly well for about 9 months. And then after the 9 months, I lost 11 of them in one day. I had one left standing when I got wounded. So I haven't contacted them. I don't know how many of them survived. Some things I like to forget.
I understand that. So you're a squad leader. What part of Vietnam are you in?
I was up around the DMZ. They called it the rock pile, the DMZ, Phu Bai, I think or Hue. In that area, we traveled a lot. When it got up to be a hot spot, they would load us on choppers and send us out, or they would take us on trucks and put us out in the hot spots and so forth. And we were very transit at that time.
And you, as a squad leader at this time, were you guys on a patrol, search and destroys? What are you doing?
Well, see, we reformed the 26 Marines out of Pendleton. They were disbanded. I don't know what war. They were probably Korea. They were disbanded, and we reformed them. And I went with the 26 Marines, and what we did, our job was to find and destroy the enemy. And actually, the enemy wasn't defined what an enemy was over. During the day, he would be around in the hooches and around the area, but at night he would be trying to kill one of my fellow Marines or so forth. So you didn't know who you were fighting. It was a difficult time to figure out who your enemy was.
Is this talking about the Viet Cong?
Yeah, we're talking about the Viet Cong. Yeah.
Did you ever fight the North Vietnamese?
Yes, sir. We had an opportunity the day that I lost my men and I got wounded. We happened to, the 2 days previous to that, we ran into the North Vietnam Regular Army, and they were wearing uniforms and so forth, and we did have contact with them, and we lost several men out of the platoon at that time.
How do you feel as a leader, or squad leader, and you lost 11 men in one day? I mean, can you be trained for that, or how do you process that when that happens, and how do you deal with that?
Well, I think in a Marine's mind, or in my mind, you just have to accept it and go on. My point is that we were briefed to go to Vietnam and as a Marine and fight the enemy and kill the enemy, but I've never been debriefed. I still have the same attitude, but I think I have enough mentality to know the right from wrong, but I still have the same thoughts. I think now that maybe the government is debriefing the people that's coming back from Iraq, as what I read, but I've never been debriefed. I still live the Marine Corps. I love the Marine Corps, and when my Marines get hurt, it hurts me. So I still live the Marine Corps code.
And you're very young at this time, and you're a squad leader. Is it just your training that gets you through the hard times? Is it your faith? I mean, what gets you through the hard times?
Well, it is the training. The Marine Corps had good training, and I still have good training, but the thing is, we have our politicians will not let our military personnel train them. And I was taught in the Marine Corps when I went through boot camp that the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war, and that is a true factor. And I think that we have House of Representatives and senators that is trying to fight wars and is trying to fight this war, and they're not capable of it. Let the generals and the commander-in-chief fight this. Let them do their job on Capitol Hill, but I don't think that they should try to tell a general or the commander-in-chief how to run a war.
But when you're in the field, when you're in the jungle or in Vietnam, what I meant was, how do you get through the tough times, losing men, fighting, the whole thing about combat? What gets you through it? Is it just your training, or?
The training, you do say, I'm not a religious person, but I did say a lot of prayers, and the thing is, you do have faith in your fellow Marine, and you try to protect him, and if you protect him, he will protect you. That, I'm assuming, is part of the Marine Corps code, or is what we felt at. I had some good men over there that were very dedicated to me, and I was dedicated to them, and it was my job to see if they got home alive. But like I say, I lost a lot of men, and I haven't contacted them, but one of these days I may get up enough nerve to try to find them. I don't know.
The ones that survived?
The ones that survived.
So, was that your worst day or situation in Vietnam? You're describing 9 months after you'd been there? That
was probably the last day, the day that I got wounded was probably the roughest day, because we only moved 50 yards in 3 days, and every time we start to move, we were hit pretty hard with mortars and rockets, and then on the third day it got to the point it was mortars, rockets, and then hand to hand. That's when it gets personal, and that's when the Marine Corps training comes in. And like I said before, I believe that our senators and our congressmen don't have the ability to teach the Marines how to hand-to-hand combat, so they should oversee it, but they should let the generals dictate how it's run.
I agree, yeah. When you're fighting in combat, I mean, it's kind of looking back, but I mean, your training, the pride of the Marine Corps, the history of the Marine Corps. Did you ever feel when you were being shot at or in combat did you ever have the thought like, I wonder if this is what it was like for the Marines on Iwo Jima or in Korea? Did you ever have those thoughts, or were you just caught up in what you're doing? I mean, when you can hear about combat, but once you actually experience it, it's a different thing.
Well, I didn't have too much formal information concerning the Marine Corps, because I joined the Marine Corps when I was in high school. Join now and go later. But the thing is, the way I got through it is to forget about the enemy as a human being, and I treated it, since I'm out of a coal mining district, I did a lot of squirrel hunting, so I treated it as squirrel hunting. So that's how I got by, and we would stalk the squirrels, but they were actually humans, and I think that I let my mind just forget about the ones that we killed. And I was taught in the Marine Corps, it's better for the other man to die for his country than you die for your country. So I believe the training helped me get through it. And like I say, if we don't get back to basics and let our drill instructors and our generals and officers train the Marines that's going through boot camp now, if we have to go to another war after we get out of Iraq, I think we will shed more blood. I don't think we're getting the proper training right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you on that. So you're fighting in Vietnam. What year was this when you lost these men?
In 1967.
You mentioned helicopters. Were you talking about Huey helicopters?
They would put us on, I refer to them, they would put a small unit of us on the Hueys and fly several Hueys out to a hot spot, or they would put us, I call them the Chinooks, I think, the double-bladed helicopters. They'd put us on there and drop us in a landing zone, and then we would go from there. You're on your own. Being a squad leader, and if you don't have anyone with you that is an officer or a rank above you, then you have to make the decisions how to survive and how to keep your men alive, and that was the main thing. And the main thing, I had some good men. I mean, they were dedicated Marines. They looked out for each other, and that's how we got through it. We actually didn't get through it, but we made it for 9 months, and some people comes back in the body bags, but I don't know how many of my men did. I never did check up on it. I really didn't want to know, and I don't know if I want to know today.
When you mention hand-to-hand, what comes to my mind is fixed bayonets and I mean, is that the way it was?
That's correct, sir. I think, I don't know if it's a correct pronunciation, is they teach you in the Marine Corps to use pugil sticks where you batter the other man with gear on, but over there it's fixed bayonets, and you just have to be better mentally and physically equipped than your enemy, okay? And the thing is, you will try to kill him before you let him kill you, okay?
Now, you mentioned you're not a religious person, and without getting into that, but I'm just wondering, when you're in the midst of that, which you're described in life and death and people, you know, being killed, doesn't your mind have to fix on something greater than yourself? I mean, how do you understand kind of what
I'll give you one instance, sir. We had incoming mortars, and I happened to end up in a deep hole where a 500-pound bomb had made a crater, and the mortars were up there, and they've got to come down. And I asked the man above if he would help me get out of that one, that when I got back to the United States, I would not ask him for very much. And I don't try to ask him for minute things. I've been told that I should, I talk to the man above, and I had a ex-wife, or a former wife, that she read the Bible every morning for 2 hours, and she says that I was not religious, but when I go over to the farm I do talk to the man, and she said that's not good enough, you've got to go to church. I don't believe you got to go to church. I believe you have a personal relationship with him, you talk to him. A lot of people I've heard them say that they talk to him, he answers them, but I've never had the man above answer my questions. I guess he probably resolves them in his way. I'm still alive today. I did get out of that foxhole. So my minute troubles today, I try to handle on my own. And I guess when it gets to become a major problem, I will ask him to help me if I can.
That's good. That's good. Are these memories of Vietnam still pretty fresh on your mind, obviously, or does it seem like a long time ago, over 40 years ago?
I tried to put it out of my mind. I have PTSD, and I'm afraid of the dark. I sleep with a gun. I sleep with a night light between me and the door. Like I say, I wasn't debriefed. I do go to counseling, but the point is, I still think about it, but I try to get over it. I try to get by it. Sometimes it gets me down. Sometimes I get moody, but the best thing I know to do is just start an activity and try to get it out of your mind.
And I understand what you're saying. I've talked to a lot of gentlemen like yourself. Do you find it helps when you talk about it like today, or does it?
Like I said before, I use it as squirrel hunting to me. I don't have a problem talking about it. I don't know, I leave that up to the psychologist and the psychiatrist that tells me that talking about it helps some people. I have no problem talking about it. I don't know if it helps me. I don't think I'm going to go out tomorrow and commit suicide over it. Maybe when I'm 62 years old, maybe when I get 75, 80 years old, if I live that long, these incidents may come back to haunt me. But at this time, I think about them. I wake up at night in a sweat, but I believe I can handle it. It ain't going to cause me to commit suicide, I don't think.
I hope not. So are you married now, did you say?
No, I just went through a divorce.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, just went through a divorce. She says that that I lived too much of the Marine Corps, and I don't forget and I don't forgive. And she has a point there. I don't. You do me wrong, I will not forgive you. I just don't want nothing else to do with you.
How long were you guys married?
This last time, 4.5 years. I have been married 3 times.
You have children too?
I have children by my first marriage, and I have children when I wasn't married. So, ironic, I just had a son that came down from Baltimore and spent a weekend with me that was from my first marriage. And I divorced his mother when he was 6 years old, and his wife tells me that he and I are just alike. We have the same attitude, and that's not because I reared him, because I wasn't there. I divorced and left, but he comes and sees me. But I have an older son that went in the Marine Corps, and he doesn't want nothing to do with me because I divorced his mother. I don't know. He was 11 years old, so what do? I try to get back in with him, and so he's got 2 children. I like to see my grandchildren, but he has a mind of his own, and I'm assuming when he gets a few more years on it, he may come and see me and bring the kids. I don't know.
So did you have one tour, Robert, in Vietnam?
I spent the one tour, approximately 9 months and 27 days. I actually had to extend my Marine Corps service to go to Vietnam, because at that time the Marines had to spend 13 months, and I didn't have enough time left in the Marine Corps to go over there, so I extended, okay? I really didn't know that Vietnam was as bad as it was going to be. Now, I think this period in our life that the world or the United States have forgotten the Vietnam veterans. They have forgotten. We've had people in the Revolutionary War and in Korea that if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here. See what I'm saying? And I respect and I look up to the people that has died for our country. And it irritates me when we have people that went to Canada when I had to go to, even though I volunteered for Vietnam, we had people that went to Canada. I don't know why they're back in the United States. I have no idea. I think they should still be in Canada. But that's my opinion.
So did you see an article in the local paper about my work that you cut out? And then tell me what prompted you to call me.
I have a lady friend that gets the paper from Bristol, and she pointed it out to me and gave me the article. I read it, then she gave me the follow-up article on it, and I had called after the first article. Then I made the repeat call because I didn't had not got a phone call from you, and I was interested in it. I would like for people to hear my opinion if I can, if I'm one of the few that gets on your program. But I think you're doing a great thing. I think that the public should listen to this, and I think that you should send the congressman and the Senate, or the House of Representatives and the Senate, a copy of all of your films, and I'll even pay the postage on it for you.
Great idea. I might take you up on that.
I'll do it.
I think it's an excellent idea. But okay, back to Vietnam. You were wounded, and then tell me about what happened when you were wounded, and I want to know about the Bronze Star first. Can you tell me the citation for the Bronze Star?
Yes, sir. On the 3rd day of the offensive we were on. I think it was called Operation Hickory. For 3 days we had tried, for 2 days we had tried to move forward, and every time we would start moving, the enemy would bombard us with mortars, incoming mortars and rockets and so forth. They knew where we were at. They're not as dumb as we thought they were. And on the 3rd day we got the order that we would move. And then when we started to move, we moved about probably 50 yards, and that puts us out of our foxhole. And then we had incoming mortars, then we had rockets. And on the incoming mortars, my commander, which was a lieutenant, Kennedy from Corpus Christi, Texas, he was wounded, and several other people out of the platoon was either killed or wounded. And I was wounded. I got to him and I was talking to him and so forth, and the mortars was lifted and the rockets were lifted, and then the gooks, as we call them, they got in close, and then it got to hand combat, and we actually overpowered them, and then the next thing I know, I was relieved by the company commander, and they put me on a tank and moved me out and medevaced me to the rear. Then they shipped me to Yokohama, Japan, an Army hospital, and I've spent about 3 months there. And I think that due to the action of, after the lieutenant was down, I took over his position and tried to maintain a little bit of order, and I think that somebody thought it was great enough to give me a medal for it, which I think, in my opinion, I could take the Bronze Star and $1.17 and go over to the Huddle House and get a cup of coffee. But it does make me feel good that I did do something for my country. But the way the country is going right now, I don't know if I would go back to the war again. I don't know about that. I think that we've got too many things going wrong against us, okay?
Well, you kind of were vague about the actual citation, but I mean, you took over for the lieutenant. I mean, usually those citations will read, without regard for his own life,
I have a copy of it. It does say that. The night previous, we had some North Vietnamese regular army that was moving in to knock out the tanks, and it just so happened that they came in front of my nighttime position, and we eliminated them. And then the next day, after I received the shrapnel wounds in the arm and the neck and so forth, I continued to stick with my men, and my men stuck with me until we overcame the Vietnamese. And it happened to be that it was a gunnery sergeant, which is an E7. I think he observed this, and he thought it warranted a little recognition, and he put me in for it. And I think that I'm glad he did, but there's other people that did a lot more than I did, and they didn't get anything. They just got death. Okay.
And you referred to the camaraderie of the Marine Corps. You fight for each other. It's pretty strong in Vietnam.
It is there, and it is still today. If you're in a situation and you happen to, whatever situation is, there's such thing, if you ask for the help of a Marine, I find that he will help you. If you are a fellow Marine, he'll help you faster than just a civilian, okay? I find that. Now, I'm not saying that civilians are bad people. I'm just saying a Marine, once a Marine is always a Marine, and he will help another Marine faster than he will help an ordinary citizen.
I understand, yeah. I've talked to a lot of Marines, Iwo Jima, Korea, Vietnam, even today in Iraq, and it's been interesting, all the different perspectives, but a lot of common threads throughout combat too. But so coming home, Robert, I mean, the transitioning from from well, you were in a hospital. I don't know. Did you come right home after that?
No, sir. They shipped me, like I say, we had so many casualties at that time in Vietnam that they didn't have any Navy hospitals open, or the repos was full. It was a ship floating off the coast. So they shipped me to, I was what was referred to as the walking wounded, and they shipped me to an Army hospital in Yokohama, Japan. And I spent about 3 months there. So with the 3 months in the hospital and the 9 months I had served over there, that made my 13 months. So they shipped me back to Maryland to Bethesda Naval Hospital, and then I spent my last few months down in Quantico teaching people how to shoot rifles and pistols.
So a lot of the Vietnam vets I've talked to were in combat, and a few days later they're home, and that transition was too fast. So you didn't have to experience that because you had a period of time.
I had approximately 3 to 4 months left in the Marine Corps, so I did go home. I had married the lady from Baltimore, so they shipped me back to Bethesda, Maryland. So I was stationed at Quantico, and I went home on the weekends. So I gradually went back into the civilian system, and I was offered the opportunity to stay in the Marine Corps, but I guess I had a little bit of rabbit blood in me, and I got afraid that I had lost 4 lieutenants over there, so therefore I was afraid I was going to get killed, so I got out of the Marine Corps. But today I wish I'd have stayed in there. I wish I'd have pulled my 20 or 30 years or whatever I could have done.
What was your rank at this time?
I got out of the Marine Corps as a Sergeant E5.
When you were a squad leader, were you a corporal or were you
I was a corporal, then I was promoted to sergeant while I was in Vietnam.
You mentioned, nighttime and stuff with the light and all that, but are there other sounds or sights or smells that bring back Vietnam?
Large noise makes me jump, if a loud noise, I go into a defensive mode. I used to box in the Marine Corps, and I go into the boxing stance up on a loud noise. I'm always, when a person approaches me, I look at him, I'm always defensive. I don't want him close enough. I was taught in the Marine Corps, close enough to touch, close enough to cut, okay? And that sticks with me. I think I still live that. And some people don't know why I don't walk up and actually get in someone's face to have a conversation, because that's what I was trained. Like I say, I wasn't debriefed, so I still retain it, and I think it has helped me. I think if I didn't live in the Marine Corps, I probably, after I got out of the Marine Corps, I would have died because it took me a long time to get back into civilian life, okay? And I was a little wild, even though I was married. I drank heavy and so forth, and I was a little wild, but the Marine Corps has saved me several times, just my training.
Robert, how did the experience in the Marine Corps in Vietnam change you as a person? I mean, before you went in, and then when you finally got out, was there a change in you, your personality, your attitude? I mean, you become a different person probably.
Sure. The Marine Corps will help most any individual that goes in the Marine Corps. Now, they took me, I was 17 and a half years old, and I wasn't mature, but I think being in Cuba and Vietnam, it made me mature. I looked at life a little bit different, okay? I think that anybody it goes into the military, it makes them a better person. It may give me some values to live up to. I think I'm a better person. I respect people more than I did. If I hadn't went to the Marine Corps, I don't know if I would have the same respect. I respect all people until they show me that they don't need my respect, okay, or I deserve my respect, and that's Marine Corps training. That's what it should be. I think now, even though I'm 62, it took me a long time to adjust, but I try to be a good citizen, pay my taxes, and obey the law. But some of the laws that's on the books is hard to swallow.
Have you ever been to the Vietnam Wall?
No, sir, I haven't. I've been in the neighborhood. I go to Baltimore, and I've been through D.C., but I don't know if I want to do that. I did. There was an article that came out in the VFW magazine this past month, that they send so many people back to Vietnam. I did apply for that. I don't know if I'll be one of the lucky few that gets to go over there. I will go back if I'm one of the lucky few, and not for closure. I've got closure. It's something we had to do for our country, and but I would go back just to see things that I didn't have time to see while I was over there. It's different than going over there and fighting a war and going back just to visit. See what I'm saying?
As far as the wall, can I ask why you don't want to go there? I mean, you got friends on the wall, I'm sure. Is it just too hard, probably?
No, I think I can handle it. I think personally I can. I think I'm a strong person. I believe that I even donated or contributed. I don't have much money, but what I could afford, I did contribute to help building of the Marine Corps Museum at Quantico. I want to go see it. I was invited since I was a contributor. I would go see the wall, but it's not because of closure. It would bring thoughts back to me, and I may see some of my men on there that did die that would not settle good with me. So I probably will, if I live long enough, I probably will go see the wall.
Because it's out there, huh? I've seen it. It's amazing.
They tell me it's a grand thing. It's a heck of a way to honor the dead, but I guess it has to be so.
Well, there'll be a time maybe for that, yeah.
Okay, sir.
Let me ask you about freedom. You fought for our country. Our children today are born in a free country. They don't really know what it is to not be free, and you and a lot of others have fought for our country to protect those freedoms. What does freedom mean to you, and tell me about the price for freedom?
Well, to me, I went to Vietnam. Like I say, I am an avid hunter. I love to hunt, and I do read a lot, and the Second Amendment right is something on my mind, and I do understand that they voted on it, the justices voted on it, and the vote was 5-4, and if it had been the opposite, I would no longer been able to own a gun. I would no longer to be able to hunt. So I don't think the Second Amendment rights, I don't know how to decipher it, but these minds that do decipher it, I think it's the Second Amendment right is more than just being able to carry a gun when you are in the military. I believe as a civilian, you are responsible for your actions. The gun does not kill people, the person kills the people. If I kill someone with my gun, then I should pay the price. I don't think it's like our immigration problem. I don't think we should have illegals in the United States. Why should I abide by the law when the illegals is not held to the same standards? They should be sent back to Mexico and go through the process that is set up for them to get into the United States. I don't understand why the United States, I know our country is based on immigrants, okay? But I don't understand why that we put other countries before we put ourselves. I think we should take care of our people at home before we're taking in too many immigrants from all countries. We should set a quota. If Great Britain takes in 500,000 a year, that's what we should take in. See what I'm saying? I don't think we should take in 3 million. And why do we pay more taxes? The way I read it, why do we pay more money for the UN in New York than any other country? I don't understand things like that. We should pay our fair share. I don't know why we don't take care of our people at home. The military was promised a lot of things, but the government the way it's set up right now, we don't have but a few people in the House of Representatives and a few people in the Senate that are military-based and minded, and we're going to lose what health benefits we get in the near future if we don't watch, and if we don't have organizations looking out for us, we're going to be lost. And we do need, some of us do need health benefits.
But as far as the cost for freedom, it said freedom's not free. I mean, looking back at Vietnam and those that died, do you see it like that?
It's a heck of a price to pay. They're still doing it in Iraq. I read some of the stories, and I think President Bush brought the one out about the Medal of Honor winner where he jumped on the grenade and saved 2 other individuals, SEALs. An individual, when he's in combat, he will do what he must do to help his fellow man, okay, his fellow Marine. But death is a high price to pay for freedom. I would have gave my life if that's the way the man above saw it. See what I'm saying? I have no control over that. But it is a high price.
What about the American flag, Robert? What does that mean and represent to you as a veteran?
I wish that they would pass the law if it's burned or abused anyway, that you spend at least 30 days in jail, and you would have to, I don't know, you should have to fold that flag daily for the 30 days at a courthouse or somewhere, okay? I think the flag is a sacred thing to me. I don't like people wearing it around their head as a bandana. I don't like that. I don't like them wearing it on the rear end, and I don't like foreign countries burning it, and I don't like immigrants, illegal, come into the United States and put their flag up and take ours down, and our officials do anything about it. They should, like I say, they should send the illegal immigrants back and let them go through the process. That's the reason I fought. See what I'm saying? I fought for freedom, for the Second Amendment rights, the First Amendment, all the amendments. But it seems like that we get like religion. We've got a few atheists that our country politics caters to. I don't see why we don't have prayer in school. I don't see why we don't pledge allegiance. I don't see why we can't do all of that just because of a few atheists. If they don't like it, let them move to a country that allows that. So that's my opinion, but there's nothing I can do about it. See what I'm saying? I'm not an elected official, and if I was a senator, I would bring that bill up on the floor. And I would be like Senator McCain. I would stick with it till it got passed. Like I think the flag amendment, it should be passed. If I was a senator, I would stick on it until they either threw me out of the Senate or they would pass the law that the flag should not be burnt.
I agree totally, yeah. Are you proud that you're a Vietnam veteran?
I am, sir.
Have people thanked you for your service?
They have. I have a brother that taught school, and he calls me every year and says, "Brother, I am glad that what you did for our country." And my children doesn't realize it, but they will eventually, that people like you and other military people did us a service. Even though he didn't go, he said he wished he had. It had been a different experience for him. But I have people that thanks me very rarely, but I do have people that do come up and thanks me. I wrote some articles I got one in the VFW magazine they did print, and then I wrote an article, it got in the local magazine the other day, and I've had people call me up and they know what political affiliation I go with. I express it strongly. I don't. I tell you what I think about it, and you can tell me what you think about it, and we can walk away friends, or we can duke it out, whichever But they should be some political things changed in this country. I don't have the power.
Yeah. Well, it's always amazing for me to talk to people like yourselves at a young age that went to war, fought for your country, and especially Vietnam. You hear good things. You hear mostly bad things about Vietnam, and then coming back home, a lot of the veterans just couldn't adapt after having been in combat and no debriefing, like you mentioned. So, I think all that plays into why maybe a lot of the Vietnam vets have struggled over the years. And I've dealt with a lot of post-traumatic stress veterans.
Yes, sir.
My Vietnam film, I've done one already. It's being used by the VA now as a tool to help men with post-traumatic stress.
Great.
So I'm proud of that. That's something I didn't know was going to happen. It has happened. So I'm working on a second Vietnam. I've done World War II, Korea, and even what's happening in Iraq today. So why do you think it's important that the history of this work that I'm doing possibly gets into our schools and people? Do you think our country should learn about Vietnam? And what's the lesson that you think we have learned about Vietnam?
Well, the lesson that we did learn was we tried to help a country that couldn't help themselves. But I think we are trying to force our ideas and democracy on other countries. I think that some countries that we go over and give military aid to and give monetary value to help them out, some of the situations we should stay out of. I think we have ideas, or we have problems here at home should be taken care of, okay? I understand in what I read, like Venezuela, I understand that we no longer get no oil from them. We're paying $4 a gallon for our oil, but I understand we still send them aid. I don't understand that program. I don't understand, in my mind, I may be off the board. I understand the way I read it that the Panama Canal was given back to the Panama by Jimmy Carter. If we still own the Panama Canal, I don't think we'd have a shortage of oil. We could charge a tariff. If it's $1 million to bring a ship through there, we take $1 million in oil, we wouldn't have a shortage of oil. So these things that I don't understand, and that's the reason I'm sure that there are smarter people than I am that are senators. But most senators and House of Representatives are millionaires, and most of them gets in there because their daddy was in there. I'd like to see an old coal miner from over here in Buchanan County, or a cattle farmer that's got the knowledge and understands people, and it's not a millionaire. I'd like to see them up there making some of these decisions with using common sense instead of handing it on a silver platter. I don't like that. I think you should earn what you get, not hand it down. And that's a fact. I'm sure, I think I read an article, very few of our senators are not millionaires. I don't have a thing against money. But if you've got all the money that you need, why are you a senator? How are you helping your country? You have to be awful dedicated to it. I think John McCain's awful dedicated to it. I don't think Obama has the experience as of this time in life. I believe that I'd like to see the officials pass a ruling that all Americans at the age of 18, after they get out of high school, should have to spend 2 years in the military somehow, either in the Marine Corps or in the Salvation Army, but they should have some training in the military. And I think that the President of the United States should have had to spend 4 years in the military. Because what do you know how can you be the commander-in-chief if you don't, have any experience in that? So that's my opinion again.
I agree with that. Yeah. We're just about done.
Okay, sir.
One more question about combat. I mean, you had combat in Vietnam. If you had to define combat, how would you define combat?
It is not based on which country loses the most men. It is based on who has the most willpower, okay? We could have won Vietnam. We had the willpower. We have men over there that gave their lives. But we had congressmen and senators and House Representative people that made the decision to pull us out. We should have went into Hanoi and fought that war on their ground, and we would have won that war. Right today, Iran is a problem. North Korea is a problem. I'd like to see before President Bush leaves office, it don't matter to me. It does matter to me which one becomes president, Obama or McCain. It does matter to me. I only think one man's qualified, but I'd like to see before Bush leaves the office, I'd like to see him take one of them little small ones like we did Japan and take part of Iran and take part of North Korea. Then the next president wouldn't have too many problems. See what I'm saying? But then we go ahead. Why do we destroy a country, then go ahead and take all this money and give it back to them to rebuild it? I don't understand that.
I don't either.
Why don't we take our money instead of rebuilding that country and put it into heart research or cancer research? I think we're sending money to foreign countries that should stay at home.
At the end of my interviews, Robert, and at the end of my films, I always have the veterans give me a salute into the camera, just something that I've done, and I understand the protocol of a salute in the Marine Corps. But for the camera's sake, from where you're seated, if I ask you, could you give me a salute into the camera?
I can, but I'll go a little bit further than that. I think I read an article the other day that they changed the ruling now. See, Marines are not supposed to salute indoors unless they have a cover on their head and wearing a belt with a holster on it or something. But I think they changed that the other day and they have a right to salute. Okay.
They did change it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I will do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.